Well, g'day and welcome back to the shed. This is part 2 of this Bush VHF64, and it looks like it was once a very nice radio, but gee, there's a lot of work ahead of me with this one. In part 1, after checking it out thoroughly, I powered it up and got some very limited AM reception. No reception on FM at all, but that's not surprising because it's full of those nasty little Hunt's capacitors, all of which will be leaky. So what I'm going to do this time is recap it, and I've now got my package of capacitors from Carl, so thanks Carl, and so I'll have enough caps on hand to do the job. So I guess the thing to do is to turn it over and get stuck into the recap. I will be testing it periodically as I go, and I'm not going to make you watch the whole recap, that would drive you insane, but I'll keep coming back and show you what progress I'm making. Actually, before I turn the chassis over, I noticed there's a couple of caps mounted on top of the output transformer, so I may as well get started on those first, and then I'll turn it over and get into the underside. I ended up replacing 4 capacitors here. Apart from the 2 on the top, there was one underneath the end here and another one underneath the end there, which I've just brought out a little bit because the wiring was a bit tricky. All the wires are looped through the solder tabs, so they're very difficult to get out, and I don't think I'm going to continue trying to solder them into the tabs. I might just have to use pigtails for a lot of it. So I've applied power to it, and it is still going to the same extent that it was before. There's no improvement, but I didn't expect it with this. Just a matter of checking that I haven't done anything drastically wrong as I go. Well, I've got it upside down now, and I thought I'd start with this electrolytic. This is 50 microfarads at 12 volts, and it is the cathode bypass cap for the output tube. I do have a replacement for it. Here it is. It's 47 microfarad at 16 volts, so over spec in terms of voltage, and I don't think 47 to 50 microfarads will make any difference. Looking at this, it looks pretty messy, like it's been leaking or something, and the end here is kind of bulging out. Okay, so I've made a little pigtail up to put this one in. Probably the only way I'll be able to do it. Just thread that onto the end here. And now just thread this little fella in. Just solder that up. And I'll just grab that and nip it off. Now this will just go up onto here. I have to make sure it doesn't short anything down there though. I'd be better off to take it around the top of that cap. There we go. Now I will be replacing this cap as well, of course, so I'll just leave that earth off until I've done that. I think I just made my first mistake. I took this cap out, and as you can see, it's got a black insulated end in there, and I assumed that was the positive because it was insulated, and I thought the can would be the other end. I turn it upside down and the other end's red, so I think I've put this one in the wrong way around. This cap isn't marked negative or positive, but I guess I can safely assume that the red is positive. So yep, I'll have to undo that and turn it around. And just checking the schematic, this is C77 attached to the cathode, and it is definitely negative to ground. This first little one's proving to be a right pain in the butt. The yellow wire from the cathode on that tube broke off, so I've had to solder in another one and put a pigtail onto the valve base there, and just a matter of now, after much mucking around, soldering in this pigtail. It's not going to be the neatest job in the world, but it will be, at least I hope, functional. That should be alright. And then that goes up onto the lead of the cap there. and I'll probably put some heat shrink over that. I still have to change this one, so actually I might do that before I solder this up. Well, luckily this one went a lot easier than the other one. It just fits nicely on the end of this little phenolic board here. So now I've just got to hook this up, solder it up. I'll just do a bit of heat shrink over that, I think. And there we go. Not the neatest job in the world, but it will do the trick, and I guess the object here is to get it working. I thought I'd better replace that one I cut out in the beginning. This was actually stopping the radio from powering up, it was shorting, so I just clipped the wire and left it, and I think it probably does perform some function. It's between the plate of the output tube and B plus coming off the rectifier there, and so it's effectively across the output transformer. So while I've got this board unscrewed, I've gone through and checked all the resistors. Most of them are pretty good, within 10% or better. I've marked a couple there that are a bit outside of that range, say 20%-ish, and I'll probably go back through and change those later, but I think they're good enough to leave in for now. I just want to get the thing going for a start. I can always go back and change out these resistors later on, but none of them are terrible, so it should be okay. So now I think it's about time I turned it upside down and tested it after replacing these few caps here, just to make sure nothing's gone badly wrong. So here we go, just plug it in. It's still on dim bulb, although I've got the 200 watt globe in it, so it's not going to have a lot of restriction. And turning it on. We don't have dial lights. What's going on there? Do have heaters though, so I don't know why the dial lights have decided not to work. And we've got some sound there.
McDonald trying to find a handle on it, Spicer. He couldn't quite gather either. Top of the 50s, jumping.
That's a lot better than it was already.
Bianco, some news on Liam Jones.
Guys, good afternoon. So you can see that he really wasn't comfortable in the back line. If you're angry, you just...
Now Z, it's a tumbler inside 50, no mark taken.
Certainly a lot better than it was. That is only on part volume, so it does go up quite loud now. I'm thinking maybe I could try the FM. I don't know if it's going to make any difference, but we'll give it a go. So going on to FM. Volume up. No, still no life at all. I'll try plugging the aerial into it, but I don't expect anything. No, nothing. Nothing, not a sausage. One thing that's becoming apparent is that the replacement capacitors I'm using, the amber caps from Carl's Capacitors, are quite a bit bigger than the original Hunts. And I'm not used to that. Usually you're replacing caps with ones that are physically smaller. So I've made this one up, for example, to fit in this spot here, and I'll have to sit underneath there and I'll manoeuvre him into place with the pliers, but it is a bit fiddly to say the least. I can get that pigtail onto there. And that one will go onto there. I'll solder that first though, that way it won't come off when I'm trying to do the other one. These little pigtails do give a good solder joint, even if they're not particularly. So that's one of the little Hunts down. Okay, I've done a little bit more work here. I've changed these to capacitors on the, these are on the EABC80, which is basically the FM ratio detector. And also I've changed this one here, which I think is the FM discriminator cap. It's 5UF at 50 volts and it's in the right spot, so that's what it's going to be. I thought, well, this is as good a time as any to fire it up again and just see if we've got any shadow of FM performance at all, and see if I've done anything wrong and blown it up. Okay, we're on dim bulb, and power is on. We'll just see what happens. Nothing's blown up yet, so I guess I haven't done anything terrible.
Host of the most popular poetry podcast in the world right now. It's called Poetry Unbound.
Train technicians are always on hand whenever there's a problem. But don't just take our word for it. Call 9201.
Okay, well, AM is still working okay. Let's just try FM, see what happens. I doubt if we'll have anything. I suspect the ECC85 might not be working, but look, I'll turn it up. Let's see if we've got any shadow of performance there. No, nothing. Not a sausage. Okay, so I've replaced all the capacitors around this side now. There's a couple left to go along these the two IF valves, but I think it's time to do a test just to make sure I haven't done anything silly, so I'll just fire it up again. Okay, well, I've got it the other way up again. Dim bulb is on, it's switched on, bit of volume, and we have reception still.
Some tickets for an old school. Says no way any coach would survive this. Farewell Simpson, says Andrew.
I'm getting a lot of crackling there.
He's got to go. He has to work. And do cut a deal with the club.
It disappears with the volume, so, but it's still there. And that reception isn't as strong as I was getting before either. I guess the thing to do is to try and find out where it's coming from. That's just wobbling that EF89. I'll try it on phono, see if it's coming through then. No. Okay, so that's on the phono input, and it's quiet. So if I put it on long wave, we have crackling. Medium wave. It's quite bad. Short wave, some crackling. What about FM? No crackling, but that sounds. Oh no, there's crackling. That sounds like we've got some reception though. Just put the aerial on FM. Oh, it sounds dreadful, but it's FM. I might just go off dim bulb for a minute. That's interesting, it's picking up that station twice. And that's the same station again. So if I just tune between stations, we don't seem to be getting that crackling on FM. Seems to be on AM only. I'll put it back on medium wave, and there we are again. Not as bad, but it's still there. Hard to say what it could be. I'll pull out that ECH81. Yep, it's still got crackling there. Okay, if I pull out the EF89, it stopped. So it's before that EF89. And the ECH81 here doesn't affect it. Now I've got another EF89 here. I'll swap them over and see if that makes any difference. No crackling with that tube in there. So I've swapped the EF89s over now, and I still get crackling with the first one plugged in. And the crackling decidedly stops when I pull it out. Plug it in, and probably have to heat up again. Yep, there we go, we've got crackling again. So it's not the valve, but it's something before the EF89. I'll just check FM again, see if there is actually crackling on FM. Not really. And it's great that I got FM or something out of FM now. Oh, that was a crackle. I'll turn it over and have a poke around and see if I can identify where it's coming from. I've been poking around here for quite a while and I haven't really come up with anything conclusive. Certainly nothing sensitive to being tapped or sprayed. I also tried heating them up. No real clue. The crackling just seems to be random and continuous. So where do we go from here? Just looking at the schematic here, and here it is here, V3, that EF89, and we know that removing it stops the noise. Now it's coupled to V4 via the IF transformers. I've been channeling Manuel and marking off the capacitors as I change them, so I know those have been changed. There's one there, C48, that hasn't been. Could be a source of noise. Also I noticed the grid of this one, the screen grid, I guess that is, of this, via R15 from B+, and it is grounded via C42, and I haven't changed that one either. This C46 will be part of the tuned circuit, so I don't want to mess with that. It's probably internal to the IF cam. So we can look at that We can certainly look at this one here, and of course there's all these switch contacts as well, which could be dodgy. So according to the diagram, and these diagrams are great, C42 is just adjacent to V3 there, and C48 is over here, and this cluster of capacitors here I haven't changed at all yet. Oh, the local hoons are out today. This is such a good area. So I've gone right over these again, redone every solder joint. My logic being that it was playing loud and clear before I replaced this group of caps here. So I thought I must have dropped a solder blob or something in there somewhere. And I even went to the extent of unscrewing the IF cans and checking that there wasn't a bit of wire or anything stuck in there that was shorting out the pins. Nothing anywhere. I've redone all of these. They're not quite as neat as they were the first time around, but at least I'm sure that they're all secure and correct. I've also replaced all of these Hunt's caps through there, every last one of them. Again, being very careful with the soldering to make sure I don't drop a bit anywhere, because this chassis is quite tight and it's easy to clip a wire and it goes ping somewhere and you don't see where it landed. So I'm confident there's nothing in here. These were all changed earlier, including the FM ratio detector or the discriminator cap there. I've checked through all the switches. I can't find anything wrong there, but it's worse than ever. There's still crackles with that EF89 out now, which is not the case before. We have got a bit of AM reception, still struggling through there, but that's about all you could say, is it's struggling through. I have to admit I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to have to start some circuit tracing here. This is not good. Just going over the top here, and I was just looking at this cap down in here. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I haven't touched it yet. This one buried down in here. Oh, I'll just snip it and see what happens.
The man who created Vegemite joins me. He's the author of Vegemite, the true story of the man.
That's an improvement.
Jamie, welcome to Drive. Firstly, Vegemite, yay or nay? Do you like it or not?
That's a ridiculous question, really. I absolutely love it.
But that's good. It's in your blood.
That's not right. That's not right at all.
Oh, we are stuffing up the world in many ways, but...
There we go.
So we'll have a chat about that as well, and we'll play the motor chat.
The question remains, Philip, are you and I going in together on a two...
And on FM, I'll put the aerial on.
I send you on to Charlie Food. All you got to do is get on and tell us your most disgusting, embarrassing truths. We'll send you there.
Let life flow.
Mega deals in bedding at June mega sale. To 50% off big brand mattresses.
Một con số kỷ lục, 69% người Mỹ được khảo sát nói rằng phá thai.
Right here on Triple J, and what a show from Arno Faraji to Ram Slings, Teen Jesus and the Gene Teasers, and of course our reigning champion Jackatine. That was such a gorgeous showcase of live music from some of the best acts to come out of.
Well, that seems to be going very much better. I still think there's something not quite right in there. There was a few crackles on AM, but it's certainly improved reception. So I'm going to keep going with it and see if I can find anything else. I'll give it a good clean. That often solves a lot of problems. Clean the valve sockets, maybe that's a problem somewhere. I don't know, but gee, it's definitely better than it was. Well, I came in here this morning looking forward to doing a chassis cleanup and perhaps an alignment, getting it ready to put back in the cabinet. The cabinet, of course, needs a lot of work. And I turned it on and it didn't work, and what's even worse, smoke came out of it. So I really don't know what's happening here. We're back to square one, I guess. I've turned it upside down and I'm just going to put it on dim bulb briefly to see if I can see exactly where the smoke is coming from. Maybe that'll give me some clue, but I tell you what, I'm pretty much at the end of my tether with this. So putting it on dim bulb, the dim bulb's lighting up, doing its normal thing. It doesn't look as if there's any drastic shorts or anything there. I've got a lot of restriction on this. This is only a 40-watt globe, so we have some sound from the speaker and it's the old crackling. The smoke seemed to be coming from the switch area, but I can't see it now. I'm just going to try a slightly larger globe in it. I've got a 60-watt in it now, a little bit less restriction. Let's see if we can see what's happening. I'm still getting some crackling there. Smoke. It's coming from the switch. The switch. Why would smoke be coming from the switch? There's no components under there at all, as far as I can tell. No components mounted to that switch. It was right at this end of the switch, I think the second or third contact. It's stopped now. And we have some reception.
Have contributed significantly to the crisis that the game is currently facing.
The reception's very noisy, but it's there. It's just stopped now. No reception at all. And there's smoke coming out. Okay, turning it off. So looking at the switch contact diagram, that was coming from around here. So we've got F and Z on this side and E there, but I think it was around here, F. Looking at the schematic here, there's F, and what F does is shorts out the IF coil when the set's on FM. Now I've got it on AM now, so that switch contact should be open. This still raises the question, why would the switch contact smoke? Even if there was a short in this IF coil, this contact is open when we're on AM, and we are on AM. So other nearby switch contacts are 6Z here, and there's this one here which I think is an E. It's very hard to read. I think that's a Z. I'll have a look at Z. So switch 6Z is here, and what it does is short out the FM IF coil when we're on AM, so that would be closed at the moment. It goes to the plate, the oscillator plate. No, it goes to the plate of the mixer oscillator down here to ground via C36. And C36, I've replaced that. I put one of Carl's caps in there. I don't suppose that could be shorted. I can't see how it could. Well, here's C36 here, and it goes, yep, from the IF to ground here. I can't see anything wrong with that. I guess I could just take it off and see what happens, or replace it. Okay, I've tacked in a replacement C36 here. I guess I'll fire it up and see if that makes any difference. Okay, turning it on with a replacement C36. It's lighting up pretty well. Oh, we've got smoke coming out. It's coming out the other end now, up the other end of that switch bank. Whew, stinks. What's going on there? Things are just going from bad to worse. That smoke was coming out up this end. I don't know. Now that smoke was coming out in the region of S6W up the back here, and S6W is here. It goes down here through R11 from B+, through this maze of switches here to ground. Is C35 cooked? I've replaced it. Oh no, I've got a tick next to it, which means I didn't replace it. C35, I thought it was good. C35 is 150 puff, 150 picofarad at G4. So if I look, G4, C35 is there. Okay, so that's C35 in here. It's that little wax covered flat plate thing. I guess I can clip that and see what happens. Okay, so I've clipped C36 here, and I was just checking this resistor which goes to the plate voltage or to B+, and it's supposed to be 18k. It measures 19.6, so this resistor is not shorted or anything silly like that. Not that you get resistors shorted very often, but have to eliminate everything in this case, I guess. So with C36 clipped, I guess we'll turn it on again and see if we get smoke. So we're on dim bulb again. It's gone down quite a lot. We'll just see if we get anything happening here. Oh yeah, we've got faint crackling from the speaker. Nothing smoking either. I'll just wait for a minute and see if anything happens. So that suggests perhaps that cap wasn't good. I'll see what value it is. Maybe I can replace it. Well, I found this old silver mica, 0.15 nanofarad, which would be 150 picofarad. I'm going to put that in. I don't know that this is good. I've obviously measured it, and it measured correctly. But whether it'll withstand plate voltage after all these years, who knows. But I'll put it in and see if it makes a difference. Okay, so that's in. I've just tacked it in temporarily. I'll just see if we've now got an oscillator and if we still have smoke. So firing it up once again on dim bulb. Dim bulb is on, switch is on. Let's just see what happens. And no smoke yet. Right, no smoke but no sound. Ah yeah. Got some sort of hissing. Yeah, we have reception back.
Perform anymore. What went into that decision? Sometimes
Getting quite a bit of whistling and whatever, which suggests misalignment. Well, probably the oscillator's off now.
Even that you can't see, but I don't know, there's a little bit of you that just thinks, okay, I feel like there's something.
It is a bit distorted, but it's still on dim bulb too, remember?
And here's a very happy Generali.
Well, that's quite distorted. Sounds dreadful, but it's reception.
In the right spot. Generali joins us up to Claymore.
And we have no crackling, most importantly, and no smoke. With all that whistling, I'm wondering about the ground to the tuning gang. I might just put a clip lead on that at the ground and just see if that helps. I'm going to stick it on here somewhere.
With this also, I imagine it's largely satisfying when your group of owners. Where cleavers are enclosed and used to obstruction.
That sounds dreadful. I could risk going off dim bulb, I suppose. There's no crackling and no smoke. Let's do that. Oh, we lost it altogether. Okay, turning it back on dim bulb. No, we've got nothing. Nothing at all. I thought I saw a wisp of smoke there, but I have no idea where it's coming from. I can smell burning. But we've obviously lost all audio. I wonder if we have anything on FM. That's this button. No, we have nothing. Nothing on FM either. Going off dim bulb. No, nothing. I'll put the FM aerial on. No, nothing. Nothing at all. That's very disappointing. Okay, do we have B+? Let's just see. Dim bulb is on. Meter, I'll go for 500 volts DC, and let's just see what we've got on here. No B+. Well, that'll do it every time. No, we've got 130 on there. Got nothing on there going to the oscillator. I'll go to, oh, of course, because it's on FM. I'll put it on AM. Oh, here we go, we've got noise. Oh, what is our B+ then? We have 150 volts on the plate. And the dim bulb is steady, it doesn't seem to be flickering as if there's a major short or anything. Turn that down to... So something died when I put it on full voltage. I might just risk going on off dim bulb again and just see what happens. Or, I know, I'll plug in a bigger dim bulb.
$130 to $190 grams, and half price Nestle Milo cereal, 700 grams. This week at Coles. Offer ends Tuesday. You know what, Frank?
No, don't tell me.
I'd love to pour us both a nice drink.
Well, that sounds a lot better. That's actually minimum volume.
Exactly.
Sounds like a job for Perth Window and Door Replacement Company. New sliding or folding patio doors can open up your living space and enhance your lifestyle. Search perthwindowreplacement.com.au.
Perth Window and Door Replacement Company. Improve your home and security.
It takes you back. DP'd.
That iconic smell of the locker room and that winning feeling. You deep heat your muscles and joints before you hit the court and really feel it working.
What was that?
And now, whether you're warming up for a hit of tennis or...
Retiring doesn't have to be uninspiring.
Okay, so what's happening here? It appears to be working well now. But a moment ago I put it off dim bulb and we lost reception altogether. Now this is a 200 watt dim bulb, so it should be placing very minimal restriction on the power. This is baffling. I might test it for a little while to see if anything happens. I can't think of anything else to do at this stage.
Many of these more than me in my life, so I'm going to defer to Digby. These one growing crotalaria.
I've been running it for half an hour or so now. It is off dim bulb, on full power. I've had no issues with it, except the AM reception is rather noisy, but then I still haven't replaced that cap that I clipped on the aerial line, so that might improve matters a little bit. I think an alignment would improve them more. But I'm watching the plate voltage on the output tube and it's sitting on a steady 270. Now the service data says it should be on 290, so that's a bit low. But just looking at the output from the rectifier tube, and that's supposed to be 300, and it's sitting on a little bit less than that. Let me just see. It's sitting on 281. So we could have a weak EZ81 rectifier, or it could be that the line voltage here is somewhat lower. This is on the 250 volt tap and we typically have 230 volts here, so that could have something to do with it. I don't have a replacement tube to put in there, but for now it's running, so I think I'll leave well enough alone. I'm just going to soak test it for a little while longer and make sure it doesn't do anything silly. Well, here we are again. The radio was going reasonably well, but on Friday I took all the valves out of it and took them to my friend Ron's place and asked him to put them on his valve tester, and he tested them and they all tested okay. So that remaining crackling noise was not coming from any of the valves, so at least that's eliminated them. Of course you can't test a valve for being noisy, at least not on the equipment he has, and he's got some pretty good gear. So I put all the valves back in and turned it on this morning, and it is not working at all. No AM, no FM. So I've been poking around here trying to work out what's wrong. Apart from it not working, some smoke came out of it again, so I've turned it upside down and the smoke seems to be coming from this switch, and I've seen smoke coming from this switch a number of times. Well, I think about 3 times now. Just a thin wisp, and this is the FM switch, so a lot of things go through it. It's the most populated switch on there. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it's the switch. It has to be something overloading a circuit that runs through the switch at least. The other thing I did was after I turned it off, I was feeling the resistors here, and this one here was hot. So that gives me some clue. So that resistor is R12 right here. And here is R12. It goes from B plus via C36 to ground, and it's attached to S6, which is the FM switch, and not much else. So I've lifted C36 off. Here it is here. Just removed it from where it's attached to the IF can here, and firing it up. Nothing. No sound at all, apart from just a slight crackle there. And putting it on phono, so the amp section is still working. So if R12 getting hot is symptomatic of the fault, the other possibility is that there's a short in this IF can. But this is the AM IF can. If there was a problem in there, you would think FM would still work, but I guess not if it's shorting B plus to ground. I checked it, of course, and there's absolutely nothing going to ground from the B plus side of this IF can, so there don't seem to be any shorts and it has continuity. That's all I can say. The smoke always seems to come from the switch though, and always on S6, the last section of the switch. This does have a contact on S6. There's another one for S6 there which switches the B plus onto the FM section when you push the FM button. So B plus does go across S6 several times, S6W here, and I've checked that circuit out before. If it wasn't for the smoke coming out and the overheating, I'd inject a signal into it and trace it through and see where it stops, but I'm very reluctant to do that because of the smoke and whatever. I don't want to run it while I poke around on it, and I could spend an hour or so poking around with it doing that, but not with smoke coming out of it and resistors getting hot. So I don't really want to do that. I think what I'm going to have to do is bite the bullet and have a look at this F6 switch. That means I'm going to have to take the front panel off to allow the switch to lift up and out. There's a lot of wires that I'm going to have to cut, so I'm going to have to be very careful, take lots of photos, mark where everything went, and I think I can probably arrange to just lift the switch up and out a little bit. I don't know how these switch wafers even come out. The whole thing looks to be pressed together in such a way I can't see how I could remove them, but that may become apparent from the front, I don't know. Well, I've got the front panel off and I'll take that off and give it a clean. I had to remove the volume pot. I don't think it needs to be grounded to work, so I'll just leave that floating, just make sure it doesn't touch anything if I power it up at all. So now I think I'll undo this and see if I can maneuver this over the buttons, and then I'll see if I can free the switch mechanism. I'll get it free first and then I'll look at removing the wires. So with that off, maybe I can maneuver it past the buttons, maybe. I did find that in order to take the front panel off I had to press all the buttons down at once and then work them through the hole in the front panel. Only way I could get it off. So that's now free, and here we have this bastard of a switching mechanism, and that's held in by 4 big screws up from the underneath, so I'll have to turn it over again and try and get them out. I don't know if I'll leave this wide in. I think I will. It's not doing any great harm for the moment. So turning it upside down yet again. And there we have the switch mechanism, well, out, loose at least. So let's just see what I have to remove to get it free. Okay, so that's got all of these off and labelled. So now we've just got those ones that go through that rubber grommet to the top of the chassis, so I'll have to turn it over again and label them and take them off. And there we are there, all in there. They appear to go to the aerial setup. Okay, so I've drawn myself a diagram of that. So the blue, these all go to the ferrite antenna. Trying to desolder out of these tags is very difficult. The wires are wrapped around multiple times, and trying to desolder them, you just make a mess. So I'm cutting them and I'm just going to solder them back on where they came from. And that means that reassembly of this mess is going to take longer than the disassembly. I guess I'll just have to wear that. Now that should now just pull through. There is a wire goes through to the tuning. I think that is the oscillator gang there. And I can't see anything shorting on it either. It all looks good. Okay, so let's just turn it over again. More and more bits dangling and falling out. There goes the ferrite. I should really put that back on, I guess. And the front panel. Yep, okay, that can go over here. Now, there's still something preventing me from taking it out. Ah yes, there's the 2 wires to the tuning gang. I can't see anything else holding it. Let me just get the light down there. There's that green wire there. The other green wire goes up through another grommet back there. And there's a grey as well. Now there's another wire that comes through here. Just under here, and it comes out underneath the tuning gang, and I can't see where it goes, and I think I will have to remove the tuning gang to find out. So I'm undoing that. Comes up through a grommet here underneath that capacitor and goes to that valve. Okay, so that goes to the grid of the mixer oscillator. Okay, now how am I going to pull that out? Maybe not, I don't know. Gee, we're really putting a lot of stuff apart here. I'm cutting off the aerial wire here. I'll label that, and it goes through here underneath the tuning gang. Okay, so that will pull through enough for me to get it. Now what else is holding this up? That green wire to the mixer oscillator is now the biggest problem I've got. And again it goes through the top of the chassis and back in. Alright, cutting that off. I'll leave a little bit of green wire on there. And I can now at last lift the switch pack pretty much out of the way. This wire here to the FM section is the only one that's still, I think, causing any restriction. But I don't think I'd gain much by taking it off. I can take this panel off here, which might give me a little bit more vision of what's going on. So it's just screws and nuts. Okay, I've got to do this handheld because there's no way I can get the camera on the tripod in here. But having got the switch lifted up, I can now see the operation of these contacts, and we're looking here at switch 6, which is the FM section. I can't really see anything wrong with it. It seems to slide between the contacts okay, and this next set here seems to be operating okay. The only thing I can see is that perhaps there's very little clearance between these contacts when it's off. This one and this one, they're almost touching. I can probably adjust that a little bit. This little tab here controls the stop position of the switch, and perhaps if I adjust that a little bit, it will solve that problem. I don't know if that's a problem at all, it's just a potential thing that I saw. And looking at the other contacts further down, I'm not seeing anything grossly wrong down there either. Except again that the clearance between these contacts when it's closed is awfully close. And that could have been sparking, it could have been doing something. I'll try and get this camera steady. So I've gone through all 6 of the switch banks, well 5 really, because the on-off switch doesn't have anything connected to it. It just operates a large rotary switch on the side. And looking at this one, now this is the gram switch, and it switches from radio to gram. And I don't know if you can see it there, but there is one contact. It is this one here, and you can see that's not even making contact. Now that would explain why there was no sound, because the central contact here goes to the pot, the audio input, this side, the wire goes off the top of it, but this side goes to pickup, and this side goes to the audio coming from the radio, from the detector. So that explains why there was no sound. How it got to be like that after just taking the valves out and putting them back in, I don't know. It may have been making poor contact all along. That could be where we were getting our crackling from. Now I don't know if I can fix that, but up the top here there are these set of contacts which are unused, and they essentially do the same thing. I think this wire here is just, this tab here is just used as a securing point. There's nothing connected to any of these contacts as far as I'll check again at the top. What I'm thinking is I could transfer these audio wires from here onto this other set of contacts here, which is unused as far as I can tell. That may solve our problems. That's assuming I can get this whole thing back together again. So it's getting late now, so I'll get onto this tomorrow, and it'll be tomorrow afternoon because I'm going to have a look at a car tomorrow morning. We'll see how that goes. But we may have an answer here. We just might. Well, here it is. Okay, well I think I've connected everything back up the way it should be. Double checked it and all against my diagrams, and it all looks promising. The only thing is this contact on the pickup switch, this is switch 2, which had that contact bent out, and that would certainly account for the lack of audio. And I was going to use this unused set of contacts on the end of the switch. The middle one had been used just as a termination point for these ground wires here, which run from here over to this bank. So rather than take everything off and put it up there, I'm just going to parallel the two sets of contacts, so each one has two sets of contacts doing exactly the same thing. So there it is done. I've used a different colour wire for each terminal so I didn't get them mixed up, which doesn't sound too difficult to do, but looking at it I'm glad that I did. So I've got the yellow, blue and red in that sequence at this end of the switch, yellow, blue and red at that sequence at that end of the switch. The last thing to do is just hook up this earth wire that was originally connected to that, and I'm just going to put that on this little pigtail here and solder that on. This is that pushback wire from Avatco, and it's good, but it does tend to creep down and get in the way a little bit. Anyway, that is now that earth run bridged over, and we've got two sets of contacts in parallel on that phono switch. Well, that's it, I think. The moment of truth. So I put a 40 watt globe in the dim bulb, I'll turn it on, and I'll put it on medium wave. That's quite bright, but it's dimming off. Looking for smoke. I don't think this globe will be sufficient to make it work well, or perhaps at all, but it's mainly for the purposes of making sure I haven't done anything dreadful. No sound at all, apart from the dogs barking, of course. Alright, I'll try a larger globe. There doesn't appear to be any dead shorts in it, so that's probably safe to do that. I have this or the 40, so we'll see. Now seriously watching for smoke, because I've got very little restriction on this. And we have noise. And we have smoke. Alright, well, it wasn't the switch, was it? Well, it looks like this radio is not going to give up without a fight, but neither am I, so we'll see. I have to admit I've been a bit haphazard in my approach to this, and I'm going to have to be a bit more disciplined and track this fault down logically. I've already spent some time going over the schematic, and in the branch of the circuit where the issue seems to be happening, there isn't an awful lot apart from that switch of one resistor and the IF can. So let's just have a look at the IF can, shall we? I don't know why I didn't do that before. It measured okay with the meter, but there's something going on there. If not, we'll divide the circuit up into sections and track it down that way. Now, a very kind gentleman by the name of Warren is sending me a dial glass from the UK, so I have to get it fixed now. So I hope you can join me next time in the shed, where we'll hopefully get this radio working and finished. Thanks for watching, and catch you then.